Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Elegant Dev Show. I am your host, the Elegant Dev, and today we'll be discussing how to be confident during a job interview. I want to help you avoid this and hopefully achieve this. Also note that I didn't use the word more as in more confident, and that's because to me being confident is rather binary, it's basically an absolute. Well, not in the fall to the dark side kind of way, mind you. Allow me to elaborate a bit. If I've gone and done everything I'm about to share with you in this video, if I follow my own advice basically, I am confident during a job interview. Otherwise, I'm not. It's as simple as that. Oh, and this is actually a good place for a quick disclaimer. As always, I'm just sharing my thoughts and opinions. And while they are based on a lot of interviews on both sides of the table, do take them with a grain of salt. Oh, and one more thing before we get into the video. If you're interested in more content like this, feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Okay, let's kick off this video, shall we? The first piece of advice on any such list is inevitably to be prepared. This doesn't just mean to be prepared for the interview, rather you should be the right person for the job. Which is just another way of saying that you are more likely to get hired if you're actually qualified to do the job. For example, I am a lead software engineer at the moment, and it would make zero sense for me to apply for a CTO position, because no one would hire me. Well, no one in their right mind at least. If they did, I would really question their hiring process. Another basic but vital piece of preparation is to get comfortable talking about your background. And remember, be flattering but realistic. And don't just talk about the good bits, that's easy and anyone can do it. Mention some of your failures and what you learned from them. Honesty and humility go a long way. Basically, be a bit more like this guy. Of course, you should be a bit more talkative than he usually is. Oh, and one more thing, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that you should also research the company at least a little bit. No one's expecting you to know the nickname of the middle child of the CTO, but at least go through the About Us page on the company website. Because you can create a better impression if you know at least a bit about the company history and culture. And at least in my experience, actually being able to talk about the company values adds a few points to my confidence level. Now that we've talked about being prepared and all that, let's focus on something simple but just as vital. And I know you already know it, but you should dress for the job you want. And sadly, it's more likely to be this rather than this. On a serious note, your clothes by definition say loads about you. The way you present yourself to the world is the way the world will perceive you. And that includes the people interviewing you. So do your best to look your best during the job interview. This next one is my personal favorite. You should do your best to have a great attitude. Well, always. It really helps. But having a great attitude during the interview will set you apart from the competition immediately. You know how people often say it's not the problem, it's your perspective about the problem? Well, they're spot on. I will now list a couple of things no one wants their colleagues to be. Defeatist, pessimistic, lazy, annoying, arrogant, smug. The list goes on and on. My point is, having a bad attitude is a surefire way to fail your job interview, because no one wants to work with an asshole. I remember one case ages ago where I was the interviewer. I probably looked a bit on the younger side then, and upon seeing me, the candidate, who looked to be about my age, said very smugly, "Is this the guy who will be interviewing me?" That unpleasant comment, on its own, would have been enough reason to reject him. But fortunately for me, he also knew next to nothing about software engineering. Long story short, he didn't get the job. That's actually a very nice segue into my next point, and it probably overlaps a bit with the previous one. Oh well, you should really focus on your soft skills. People say it's basically half the battle, or about a third of the battle if you're a fan of Neil Gaiman's brilliant commencement speech. Link in the description. My point is this. Basically, you should try to convince your interviewers that you're actually a person they would love to work with. Of course, this will not get you the job if you don't know anything, but it will tip the scales in your favor when it's just down to you and that unpleasant guy Kevin. We all know a Kevin. Now, my final piece of advice is to just smile more. And I shouldn't even need to say it, but do this rather than this. If you're smiling, by definition, you look a lot less worried. This will help you relax a bit, calm down a bit, and let some of that natural charisma shine through. If you're worried you might not have any of that, you should take a look at the Charisma on Command YouTube channel. Those guys have some great content on the subject. And there's a link in the description, so definitely go have a look, but not before I tell you this last bit. It's just a job interview. Even if you fail, it's not the end of the world. The worst outcome is that you will get better at the interview process. And eventually you will land that dream job when you've leveled up enough. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, this will be all for this episode of the Elegant Dev Show. But before we end the video, do you agree or disagree with what I've just said? And what's your best piece of advice for someone who's preparing for a job interview? As always, I would love to know, so please leave a comment down below. Finally, if you like this video, you can show your support for my channel by liking, subscribing or sharing it with your friends. Thank you all for watching, and remember, stay elegant, exceptional and extremely professional, and I will see you in the next one.